Guys, it's time to start talking about Malcolm Wellmaker. I feel as though this is a video that's so long overdue because I've been thinking about it since before his Contender Series fight. And then he got the knockout and I was going to do it the same day. And I just never got around to it. And I'm like, bro, we got to make this video because this guy has some serious potential. He's 8-0 right now in professional fights. 6 of those 8 wins are by way of finish. And 2 of those 6 finishes were submissions. So you get a little bit of everything with this guy. It's not just straight up one-punch knockouts. Like, you know, there's times if he gets you hurt or tired enough, he will go for the submission. We're going to get a little bit more into his submission offense later, but that's good. I like the fact that instinctually he's going for it within itself is great. With the one-punch knockout power he has and how rare that is to find in the lighter weight divisions like flyweight and bantamweight, like anytime, it doesn't matter whether it's either of those weight classes. Whenever there's a guy that has this kind of power, it's a must-see TV. Who wants to miss it? I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but I always watch the lighter guys because their weight, it's not like watching a slow, sluggish heavyweight that has knockout power where you're just kind of bored. These guys are fast. When bantamweights and flyweights are throwing punches, this shit is so fast. They're so agile. And you got one-punch knockout power, bro. It's like watching a video game. So for me, it's always must-see TV, and that just brings such a high level of excitement to the bantamweight division, which is already stacked in a way. Like he already has a lot of people. Like there's a lot of matchups in the future when he actually becomes a contender that are like, holy shit, I don't even know who's gonna win those. But man, so Malcolm is 30 years old. He's 30 years old and he had his first amateur fight back in 2018. So he's not like he's been active for the past 5-6 years. He's been relatively active, and within the time that he spent developing his style and his technique within the past 6 years, the one thing that I've noticed stands out a lot about this guy is his right hand. Holy crap, the power in his right hand doesn't even make sense sometimes. He goes to the Contender Series, and off the back foot, he's taking a step back, which, you know, obviously we've seen this happen before, but it's still impressive. If you've trained and you're one of the people who can just naturally do that, kudos to you. But I can tell you right now, that's not something all of us can just do, you know, off the back foot with that kind of power and torque. So we already know that's what you need to stay away from. And if you watch his clips from before he even made it to the Contender Series, I remember seeing clips of him rocking someone against the cage and just throwing the right hand over and over. Not saying that's a good thing. Obviously, we would want to see him mix it up, especially now that he's in the UFC. I want to see you throw combinations. I want to see you use your lead hand and your kicks to set that right hand up in a combination. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously at the highest level, if a person knows he's going to throw 3 right hands at me, it becomes predictable. But the fact of the matter is that's just how powerful the right hand is. But so now that we've done all the glazing and we've talked about his one-punch knockout power and how, you know, just athletic and fast and all of these things that Malcolm is, I think it's time that we get into some of the things that I would like to see him improve on so that we can assure that he makes it to that contender status. Because as of right now, he has some holes in his game that can prevent him. Despite him having 2 wins by submissions, none of those subs were high level, like UFC caliber setups. They were more so like he would either have the person really hurt or really fatigued, and they would almost give him the submission. I can recall, I think it was his second submission. No, it was his first submission, where he had the dude, he had him mounted and he was just punching him, and the guy literally just turned around. Like he was tired, he didn't want to get beat up anymore, he wanted out, which is great. But guys in the UFC know how to fight through being fatigued. Guys in the UFC know how to fight through being hurt. So as much as he has that crazy power, just because you rock somebody in the UFC does not mean that they're just going to give up a sub. Now, like I said earlier, I like the fact that instinctually he goes for it because that's what we want to see. So if he can just clean that up a little bit and instead of it being like only in positions where the person pretty much is giving him the sub, that he actually locks it up. If he can actually like learn how to, okay, I just dropped this guy. Now I'm going to sink in both of my legs and I'm going to, you guys get what I'm saying. But if I truly feel like if he can get the right training for his grappling and learn exactly how to methodically go about submitting someone that you have hurt or extremely fatigued without rushing it and trying to just bombard them and thinking that, yo, he's hurt, I got him. I truly feel like that'll be one of the things that skyrocket him to contendership. Like, he doesn't have to be a submission specialist. He doesn't have to be the next Charles Oliveira. Nobody's saying that. He just has to be good enough to where he understands how to methodically go about submitting someone at the UFC level while they're fatigued or hurt. Because the whole frantically rushing because you see them have them hurt, it's like wrong idea. I mean, right idea, wrong approach. Next would be his takedown and sub defense. Because I've seen him defend both, but once again, very little technique, more so just athleticism and strength, which can only get you but so far against the highest level, especially when you consider the same thing I mentioned in the last point, fatigue. Your athleticism and strength can only get you but so far against someone who's not gonna let you knock them out. You know what I'm saying? Someone who's gonna continuously shoot. Someone like Marab who shoots 10, 20, 30 times. After a certain amount of times of you using nothing but athleticism and strength, you're going to be tired. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot different when someone shoots a single leg on me and I'm stuffing his head and trying to wizard my way out of it with wrist control. And if someone shoots a single leg on me and I'm just like trying to muscle their arm and pull it off my leg and then hip out and spin around, you can only do that but so many times. Because you're using way more energy to get out of it than they're using to try to keep you in the, to try to finish the takedown or keep you in the sub. I would love to see him start to sprawl and scramble his way out of things. And you know what I'm saying? Reverse these positions sometimes. Like when a guy takes a panic shot, I would love to see a guy take a panic shot on Malcolm and he just a beautiful sprawl, circles behind and just TKOs them with ground and pound because he was able to see it coming from a mile away and he welcomed it because he knew you're not going to get to my legs. And he was able to use his hips as opposed to like just his sheer strength and athleticism. Those two things alone, I feel like, with his knockout power, because now it changes it from people being able to fatigue him to him fatiguing them. Because if someone really knows how to use their hips to avoid getting taken down and to use the momentum to avoid being taken down and submitted, the person who's on offense only has but so much in them. Even if they do everything perfectly, they only have but so much in them. This is why high-level wrestlers that are from the US especially barely wrestle because, or they don't, when they take someone down, they just try to hold them down for as long as they can because it's exhausting when someone knows how to defend these things, to continuously try and to continuously, try to force them into a bad position. And then once you get back on the feet with him, if he can stay on the feet with as little like energy used as possible and force you to be the one using all of your energy, when y'all get back on the feet, he's fine. You know what I'm saying? He's fine. He's right back to trying to knock you out with a power punching. You're having to figure out how you're gonna get back in that position and try to take him down all over again. The rest of what I noticed can very easily be tweaked. So it doesn't make sense in mentioning them because this is a guy that I see a bright future for. So it's like I only want to talk about the things that I think can make a gigantic difference in the trajectory of his career. Little things like times where he drops his hands. I'm pretty sure in foot, like going over film, he's very aware of that. He's literally a striker. You know what I'm trying to say? And I would even argue that sometimes, I'm not saying it's smart, but sometimes he just knows the guy doesn't have anything. Like there's nothing this guy can throw at me that I won't be able to return and knock his ass out with. You get me? So, but I just don't feel like those are things that have to be mentioned because I'm pretty sure they're going to be cleaned up as he gets as he starts to fight in the UFC and really starts to get his feet wet. Now let's get into matchups because there's 3 really good matchups that I think in the future, not right now, but there's 3 really good matchups that I think would be barn burners, like crazy fight of the night if we get to see a developed Malcolm across the cage from these individuals. So the first one that comes to mind is Payton Talbott. Payton is an all-around better fighter. He also has the crazy knockout power like Malcolm. Maybe not as insane, but it's there. He has knockout power. That's undeniable. But he also has better kickboxing, better jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a little different, but that's just right now. We don't know what Malcolm is going to develop into. If they were to fight today, I would say Payton would win pretty convincingly, but we don't know what if Malcolm tweaks the things and it just becomes like a straight up striking match and Malcolm can really utilize like if Malcolm can really utilize his power and learn to mix in his combination with his boxing and avoid the grappling of Payton, and it becomes a straight up striking match, who knows? You get what I'm saying? Because just like how Malcolm would have to respect Payton's power, Payton would have to respect Malcolm's power. It goes both ways. So that alone would be an insane fight for the future. Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt is one that I think, like, we've seen Cody pull out some wrestling when he had to against competition that he knew he could use it against. He knew he had the grappling advantage against, and against someone like Malcolm right now, or in the early stages of his career, I think that's what it would come down to. Because although Cody is a good boxer, he has no chin, and I don't think that. And he not only does he have no chin, but he's like a bantamweight Michael Chandler, bro. Like once the fight starts getting hot, he just loses all IQ and wants to have a slugfest, and that'll be his demise. So a smart Cody Garbrandt would just out grapple Malcolm right now, but that's what would make the fight interesting in the future. If Malcolm reaches a point where Cody Garbrandt wouldn't be able to do that, now we have a pretty clean boxing match to a degree, because Cody can box. That's undeniable.
Well, well, well.
But at the end of the day, Cody's chin, that's what it'll all come down to, man. Is he going to be smart enough to be able to use head movement the entire time and not get clipped by Malcolm? Nobody can guarantee that. So that's why I think in the future that'll be a great matchup for Malcolm as well, because he's a veteran, he's seasoned, he would know how to use the holes that we see in Malcolm's game against him, or at least think that leading up to their fight. And it'll just be like, you know, like for an up and comer, that's a good fight, bro. Cody is a great fight for any up and comer. You always want these guys that are coming into the UFC when they're early in their career. You want them to have those fights against veterans to see how they hold up against a guy who may not be as young or athletic or healthy, but has the mind, has the fighting mind, has been around the block for long enough to know how to weather the storm. Because that's what we need to see, is guys who can weather the storm against Malcolm. And so far, you know, like I said, even right now, like that one, I really feel like if Malcolm were to develop even a little bit, like get the takedown defense right, I feel like Malcolm could beat Cody Garbrandt. That's just me though. Everyone has their own opinion. And the final matchup, which I think would be the equivalent of a heavyweight bout, not in terms of like it being slow, but in terms of the knockout power, like what people thought Francis versus Derek Lewis would be Malcolm versus Montel Jackson. That right there is one of the fights that I like. Oh my gosh, bro. Even just the thought of it gives me chills, because imagine that. We're not talking about Malcolm of today. Malcolm, after 2-3 fights in the UFC against a couple specialists, and we're going to get into that, but that Malcolm, when he's developed and is literally settled into the UFC, versus the likes of like a Montel Jackson, who is also just a power puncher, bro, like a straight up power puncher. Of everything I've seen, I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched all of his fights, but I've seen about 3 or 4, and every time it's him just walking, like it's pretty straightforward. Like, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to kill you. Like, it's always pretty straightforward with Montel. And holy crap, bro. Him versus that in general, because, bro, they're both, like I said, they're not heavyweights, so you're not going to see them throwing these slow, ugly punches, trying to find a knockout shot. They're going to be mixing it up, bro. And it's one of those things where whoever gets hit, whoever gets caught, they're out. But do both of these guys like the kind of, like, none of them are the type of fighter that's going to sit there and wait and stall. You get me? So it's like, I feel like that fight has to end in a knockout. There's no way a fight like that gets to a decision. And once again, as of right now, we're not even going to talk about as of right now. That's like my number one dream fight for Malcolm in the future, because Payton, I feel like Payton is I just feel like Payton's a little too advanced right now. Like, you know, and Payton's only getting better. Like, I would rather see Payton versus like a Song Yadong at some point, like a future Payton versus a Song Yadong. That Montel Jackson and Malcolm Wellmaker fight, that right there, that's gonna be, if I could say, like, out of the 3 fighters that I've mentioned, that's the one that I want to see the most. Just because I can't imagine, like, I can imagine the shots that are gonna be thrown by these 2 135-pound men. Holy shit. But if you were to ask me who I think takes that, I think a developed Malcolm. Oof. This is tough. I don't even know. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I think Payton beats Malcolm. I think Cody, but I think it'll still be a good fight. I think a developed Malcolm could beat Cody. I still think that'll be a good fight. And then this one right here, I don't know. I genuinely don't know, bro. Both of these guys and the way that they fight. If Malcolm is developed and more seasoned, like how Montel is, holy man. Now, keep in mind, like I mentioned earlier, I would want him to have a solid 3-4 fights in the UFC before starting to fight that level of competition, like the lower ranked guys. I don't even think Cody Garbrandt's ranked, but the lower ranked guys, or is Payton ranked? I don't know. He's in the game, but once again, like before he starts getting to like the lower ranked guys that we're familiar with, I would much rather see him fight some just unranked guys that preferably 2 of those fights out of the 4, maybe 2 of them can be specialists, grappling specialists, so that he can have full UFC caliber dedicated training camps to learning how to deal with specialists and really honing in on those skills. Obviously, the other 2 could be strikers that are like specialists that are strikers, or maybe they could just be all around up and coming MMA fighters that are good at a little bit of everything. But I really would like to see at least 2 of them be guys who specialize in grappling, because we need to see Malcolm have those hard fights. You know, I don't want to see guys who are going to walk forward toward him with their chin up in the air and let him crack them. I need to see him weather the storm so that he can get that type of experience, learn how he would deal with these situations against the highest level athletes, and just be more than prepared for these future bouts that we're speaking of. Because I like, once again, I truly do see this for him in the future. Like I see him fighting these big names, and I see some of them I see him winning, some of them I don't. But the reality is, who knows? None of us knows. All I know is there would be some amazing freaking fights. I say all that to say, with the level of power, athleticism, and hunger that he has, like, I just don't see a future where he doesn't work on these things. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't see a future where he comes into the UFC and just gets mollywopped and just gets taken down and ragdolled. I don't see it. I'm just mentioning these things because, you know, we're basically having a conversation. This is UFC talk. I could talk about UFC all day. But, man, I really think that within no time we'll be seeing him against the likes of the guys that I just mentioned. And in that conversation, man, I would be so disappointed if not, because, bro, this is a promising dude, and he's hungry, like I said, bro. Coming from Augusta, Georgia, you know, he has a kid. This is his dream. He's, you know, just everything, bro, everything. You have to keep in mind, he's working a full-time job too, 10 hours a day, I think 5-6 days a week. So he's not even able to train fully. That's another thing you guys have to keep in mind. He's not able to train fully. He has so much room for improvement, because once he's able to leave his job and focus fully on just training for the UFC, bro. Yeah, it's gonna be no time before we see him in the conversation with these guys, and one of these matchups are gonna happen. Whether it's Cody, Montel, or Payton, one of these matchups is gonna happen in the near future. So mark my words, I'm telling you, bro, he's gonna be in that conversation. No way around it. As long as he can beat the competition put in front of him to get his feet wet early on in his career, I just don't see how he's not able to develop his skills to the point where he can compete with these guys, man. But these are just some dream matchups for me. I feel like I've spoken enough throughout this video, but those are just some dream matchups that I personally have for Malcolm. I'm pretty sure you guys have matchups that you feel like will be great for him once he settles in to the UFC. So feel free to comment down below who you think would be a great matchup for him in the near future, and whether you think he would win or lose. That being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Audi 5000.